Hindu Kush Mountains, Afghanistan, March 1986. The wind carved through the mountain pass like a blade through silk. At 11,000 feet, the air was thin enough to make breathing a conscious effort, cold enough to freeze exposed skin in minutes. Master Chief Ronan Ghost Brennan pressed his eye to the Schmidt and Bender scope mounted on his M21 rifle and exhaled slowly, watching his breath dissipate in the pre-dawn darkness. Beside him, Master Chief Frank Morrison shifted position, his spotter scope trained on the Soviet convoy crawling through the valley below. 28 vehicles. Supply trucks mostly, but 3 BTR-80 armored personnel carriers and enough firepower to level a small village. Range, Ghost's voice was barely a whisper. 1247 yards. Morrison's Oklahoma drawl was subdued. Wind's a bitch. 15 to 18 miles per hour gusting from the northwest. Temperature dropping. Ghost made minute adjustments to his scope. 1,200 yards. The distance where physics and faith intersected. Where the bullet spent almost 3 full seconds in flight, arcing through space and time subject to gravity, when the Coriolis effect, even the Earth's rotation. At this distance, a shooter didn't just aim at a target. He aimed at where the target would be when the bullet finally arrived. Third vehicle from the rear, Morrison said. Red star on the door. That's our boy. Through the scope, Ghost found the BTR-80. The side door was open. A man stood beside it, smoking his breath visible in the cold. Soviet uniform, captain's insignia, Viktor Volkov. The name had crossed Ghost's desk 3 weeks ago in a CIA briefing room in Langley. Former Spetsnaz, current commander of Soviet special operations in the Hindu Kush. The man responsible for the deaths of 17 CIA assets in the past 6 months. He's exposed, Morrison said. But Christ, Ghost. That's an impossible shot. Ghost's finger rested against the trigger guard. Not on the trigger. Never on the trigger until the moment arrived. His father had taught him that. His father, who'd carried an M1 Garand through Europe in 1944, who'd taught a 7-year-old boy to shoot cans off fence posts on a Montana ranch, who'd said, "The rifle doesn't make you deadly, son. Your mind does." 1247 yards, Ghost murmured. 308 Winchester, Federal gold medal match. 175 grain boat tail, hollow point. Muzzle velocity 2,600 feet per second. He was talking to himself, now running the calculations. Drop at this range, 34.8 minutes of angle, 402 inches, wind deflection, 9.2 minutes right, 131 inches. Morrison watched him make the adjustments. The scope turret clicked. Once, twice, 17 times. Each click a quarter minute of angle. Each click representing roughly a quarter inch of adjustment at 100 yards, scaling proportionally at longer distances. Got a daughter back home, Ghost said suddenly. Morrison blinked. What? Kira. She's 3 years old. Red hair like her mother, eyes like mine. Ghost breathing had slowed. 52 beats per minute. He'd trained his heart to do this. Gonna teach her everything I know. A girl, Morrison almost laughed. Shooting. The world's changing, Frank. Ghost crosshairs settled on Volkov's chest. One day she'll be better than both of us. The wind dropped. For exactly 4 seconds, the valley went still. The moment between gusts. The moment Ghost had been waiting for. He squeezed the trigger. The rifle bucked. The sound echoed across the mountains, a crack that sent snow cascading from nearby peaks. Through the scope, Ghost watched the bullet's impact. Volkov's chest, center mass. The man crumpled. Jesus Christ, Morrison breathed. That was impossible. Ghost was already moving, breaking down the rifle. Wasn't the rifle, Frank. Was the training. They were gone before the Soviets even realized what direction the shot had come from. Naval Special Warfare Command, Coronado, California. Present day. The fluorescent lights in Commander Alistair Hawke's office hummed with a frequency that made Kira Brennan's teeth ache. Or maybe that was just the tension. She stood at attention, hands clasped behind her back shoulders, square eyes fixed on a point above the commander's head. The way her father had taught her. The way she'd practiced 1,000 times in front of her bathroom mirror. Commander Hawke was 52. British father and American mother with a face that looked like it had been carved from the same California granite as the coastline outside. He studied a folder on his desk. Kira's folder. Her entire life reduced to paper and bureaucratic language. Miss Brennan, his voice carried the crisp precision of someone who'd spent decades giving orders. You face potential court-martial for conduct unbecoming. The tree incident violated multiple regulations. Do you understand the severity of your situation? Go on, try me. That's what she'd said. 4 words that might end her career before it even started. Maybe she should have kept her mouth shut. Maybe she should have walked away when Senior Chief Garrett Thornbull, they called him, had suggested the old SEAL tradition. Maybe she should have done a lot of things differently. Yes, sir, she said. Hawk closed the folder. The video evidence is damning. 5 witnesses, clear documentation of hazing. Chief Thorne faces dishonorable discharge. 3 other personnel face administrative action. He paused. All because of what happened to you. The hem in her shoulder throbbed. She'd popped it back into place herself, but dislocated shoulders didn't heal in 4 days. The bruises on her wrists were still visible, purple and yellow, the color of consequences. Permission to speak, sir. Denied. Hawk's eyes were gray, cold. This is a disciplinary hearing, not a debate. However, before we proceed, I think it's important to understand how we arrived at this moment. For the record, Miss Brennan, tell me about your first day at this command. Kira's jaw tightened. Sir, I don't see how. That wasn't a request. 96 hours earlier, the 1990 Ford Bronco coughed its way through the gates of Naval Base Coronado like a dying animal refusing to quit. Kira loved that truck. Her father had bought it used in 1998, driven it for a decade, left it to her when he deployed to Afghanistan for the last time. It burned oil. The air conditioning only worked when the temperature was below 70, and the radio was stuck on a country station that played nothing but songs about heartbreak and whiskey. She parked in the visitor lot and sat for a moment, engine ticking as it cooled. The Pacific stretched out beyond the base, endless and indifferent. Somewhere out there, her father had trained, had run obstacle courses until his hands bled, had learned to shoot, to navigate, to become a weapon in human form. Somewhere out there, he'd become Ghost. The seabag in the passenger seat contained everything she owned that mattered. Uniforms, medical textbooks, her commission papers, and wrapped carefully in an old ACU jacket, the components of her father's M40A3 sniper rifle. Technically, she wasn't supposed to have them. Technically, they should have been turned over to the armory when he died. But her mother had kept them. 16 years, waiting for Kira to be ready. She grabbed the bag and stepped out into California sunshine. The air smelled like salt and jet fuel. An FA-18 Super Hornet screamed overhead, and Kira felt something in her chest tighten. Her father had watched those same planes, had breathed this same air. I'm here, Dad, she thought. I made it. The medical bay was in Building 147, a gray concrete structure that looked like it had been designed by someone who'd given up on architecture halfway through the project. Kira found the right door, knocked, and entered. The man inside was organizing surgical instruments on a steel tray. He didn't turn around. You're late, he said. Sir, my orders stated 0800, it's 0753. In the teams, we show up 15 minutes early. That makes you late. He turned. But you wouldn't know that, would you? Because you're not a SEAL. Master Chief Frank Morrison was 66 years old, with the kind of weathered face that suggested he'd earned every line through hardship. His eyes were blue, pale blue, the color of winter skin. Those eyes studied Kira for a long moment, and she watched something flicker across his expression. Recognition, surprise. You're Brennan's kid, he said. It wasn't a question. Kira's throat tightened. Yes, Master Chief? Morrison set down the instrument he was holding, a scalpel. He walked around the desk slowly, and Kira noticed a slight hitch in his left leg. An old injury, probably, the kind that ached when the weather changed. Ronan Brennan, Ghost, SEAL Team 3. Morrison's voice had gone quiet. I served with your father for 12 years, Afghanistan, Iraq, places that don't exist on maps. He stopped 3 feet away from her. He was the best operator I ever worked with. Kira had prepared for this conversation, had practiced what she'd say, but now standing in front of a man who'd known her father, who'd fought beside him, the words evaporated. He made me promise something, Morrison continued, before he deployed in '08. Before, he didn't finish the sentence. didn't need to. He said, Frank, if anything happens to me, if Kira ever joins the Navy, watch over her. I don't need anyone to watch over me, Kira said. Morrison's expression didn't change. That's what Ghost said you'd say. You know what he told me? He said, she's got my stubbornness and her mother's brains. She won't want help. Give it to her anyway. A seagull cried outside. The sound echoed. He also said, you'd be the best shooter I'd ever train. Morrison picked up a clipboard from his desk. But that was before the Navy allowed women in combat roles, before any of this was possible. He handed her the clipboard. Medical bay inventory, equipment that needed checking. Times have changed, Kira. Your father saw that coming. Most of us didn't. She took the clipboard. Master Chief, I'm here to be a medical officer and to qualify for sniper school, not to be anyone's project. Understood. Morrison moved toward the door. But understand this. The men here, they won't make it easy. Some because they don't think women belong. Others because they're testing you. Either way, you're going to face challenges that have nothing to do with your ability. I can handle it. I know you can. Morrison paused in the doorway. Your father trained you. I saw the marksmanship scores in your file. Expert marksman. Same score as Ghost had, but shooting paper targets at a range and surviving in the teams, those are different things. Then I'll learn, Morrison nodded. That's what I told your father you'd say. He left, and Kira was alone in the medical bay, surrounded by equipment that could save lives or document death depending on how well she did her job. She set down the clipboard and reached for her phone. Pulled up the only photo she had of her father, him in desert camouflage somewhere in Iraq holding his rifle. His eyes were squinted against the sun, but he was smiling. Barely. The smile of someone who'd seen too much to find joy in small things but still remembered what joy felt like. I'm here, she whispered to the photo. I made it. The photo didn't answer. It never did. The obstacle course started at 0530. Kira showed up at 0515. The O course at Coronado was legendary. 2 miles of pain wrapped in sand and California sunshine. Rope climbs, cargo nets, monkey bars, the parallel bars that destroyed shoulders, the belly crawl through cold Pacific sand, and the wall, the 12-foot wall that had broken more SEAL candidates than any other obstacle. 15 men were already stretching when Kira arrived. They stopped when they saw her. Morning, gentlemen, she said. Nobody responded. They just stared. She recognized a few faces from yesterday's orientation. Bull Thorne, 6'3", 240 pounds, with a neck like a tree trunk and eyes that had suggested he'd never met a problem he couldn't solve with violence. Petty Officer Collins, younger, maybe 24, with the kind of lean muscle that came from running marathons, and others whose names she hadn't learned yet. You lost Doc. Bull's voice could have cut steel. Medical bays in Building 147. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, Chief. This is Team PT. You're not on a team. Actually, Kira dropped her bag. According to my orders, I'm attached to SEAL Team 3 for the duration of my assignment. That makes me part of the team. Bull's expression suggested he'd just bitten into something rotten. Fine, keep up or quit. We don't slow down for anyone. They didn't slow down. They accelerated. The run started at a 7-minute mile pace. Kira could handle that. She'd run cross-country and high school marathons in college. But after the first mile, Bull increased the pace. 6:30, then 6. The sand made everything harder, each step requiring twice the effort of solid ground. Kira's lungs burned. Her legs screamed, but she kept pace. The first obstacle was the parallel bars. 2 metal bars shoulder-width apart, 20 feet long. You gripped them and swung your body through, hand over hand. Most of the men made it look easy. Kira reached up, grabbed the bars, and immediately felt something wrong. The bars were slick. Someone had oiled them. She slipped, caught herself. Tried again. The men were already moving ahead, and she could hear laughter. Problem, Doc. She wiped her hands on her shirt and tried again. Made it 3 feet before losing her grip. Hit the sand hard. Guess Daddy's training didn't cover obstacle courses, someone said. Kira stood. Tried again. This time she made it halfway before her grip failed. She hit the sand again this time, landing badly on her right shoulder. Something popped. The pain was immediate and blinding. She rolled onto her back, gasping. Bull appeared above her, silhouetted against the rising sun. You done? She tried to move her right arm. Couldn't. The shoulder had dislocated, anterior displacement based on the mechanism of injury and the way her arm hung. She'd seen it dozens of times in medical school. Knew the treatment. I'm fine, she managed. You can't even move your arm. Kira sat up. The world tilted, but she focused through the pain. Used her left hand to grip her right wrist. Then in one smooth motion, she pulled her arm away from her body and rotated it. There was a grinding sensation, a sound like stones rubbing together, and then a pop as the humeral head relocated into the glenoid fossa. The pain didn't disappear, but it became manageable. Bull stared. What the hell? Anterior shoulder dislocation. Kira's voice was steady despite the agony radiating down her arm. Mechanism fall on outstretched arm. Treatment closed reduction using external rotation technique. You were saying, Chief? Bull's face had gone pale. Around them, the other men had stopped to watch. Where'd you learn that? Collins asked. My father taught me field medicine when I was 12. Kira stood cradling her right arm. He said operators need to be able to treat themselves because sometimes there's nobody else. Morrison had been watching from a distance. She saw him now standing near the finish line and his expression unreadable. He didn't come over, didn't offer help, just nodded once and walked away. The message was clear. You're on your own. Kira looked at the obstacle course stretching ahead, at the men who'd sabotaged the parallel bars and were now watching to see if she'd quit, at Bull Thorne's skeptical face. Are we finishing this or not? She asked. The medical bay became her sanctuary. Between training sessions and the barely concealed hostility from most of the team, it was the only place where she could breathe. She was inventorying supplies when Morrison found her 3 days later. Evening. The golden hour when sunlight turned everything amber in California felt like a place where magic might actually exist. Let me see that shoulder, Morrison said. It's fine. It's not fine. You're favoring it. Let me see. Kira rolled up her sleeve. The bruising had blossomed, purple and blue spreading from her shoulder down to her elbow. Morrison's touch was gentle as he examined it. Range of motion, she demonstrated. It hurt, but she could move it through most of the normal arc. You need to rest it. Ice, NSAIDs, sling for 48 hours. I can't show weakness. Treating an injury isn't weakness. Morrison released her arm. It's tactical. You're no good to anyone broken. Your father learned that the hard way. Tried to tough out a broken rib in '04, nearly punctured his lung. He moved to a cabinet and retrieved a sling. You'll wear this during non-training hours. That's an order. Kira wanted to argue, but Morrison was right. Pride wouldn't heal her shoulder. He left something for you, Morrison said. Your father, training regimen, detailed notes on sniper fundamentals, tactical medicine, everything he learned in 20 years. He pulled a worn notebook from his desk drawer. He updated it every year. Last entry was 2007, year before he died. The notebook was green. Military issue. The cover was stained and faded. Kira opened it carefully as if it might crumble. Her father's handwriting. Small, precise, each letter formed with the same care he'd used for everything. Page 1. For Kira when she's ready. Her vision blurred. She blinked hard. He knew, Morrison said quietly. Somehow he knew you'd end up here. That you'd need this. He moved toward the door. I'll train you. After hours. The way Ghost trained me. But you have to survive the days first, Kira. They're going to come at you harder now. Why, Tama? Because you didn't break. Because you showed them competence and courage. Morrison's expression was grim. Men like Bull, they respect strength, but they fear change. You represent change. That makes you dangerous. After he left, Kira spent an hour reading her father's notes. Ballistic calculations, wind reading techniques, the proper way to estimate range without a laser rangefinder. Pages and pages of knowledge carefully recorded. On page 47, she found something else. A note in the margin written in different ink. More recent. Kira, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Remember what I taught you. The rifle doesn't make you deadly. Your mind does. Trust your training. Trust yourself. Come home safe, Dad. She closed the notebook and pressed it against her chest. Outside, the sun was setting over the Pacific. The same sun her father had watched. The same light. I miss you, she whispered to the empty room. The Anchor Bar was the kind of establishment that existed in every military town. Dark wood, neon signs, the smell of beer and fried food, photos on the walls of men in uniform, some living, some not. A place where warriors went to remember or forget depending on what they needed. Kira hadn't wanted to come, but Collins had insisted. Team tradition, he'd said. Friday night, everyone goes. You don't show, they'll say you're not committed. So she'd come wearing civilian clothes, jeans, and a fitted black shirt, and feeling completely out of place. The team was already deep into their fourth round when she arrived. Bull saw her first. His eyes were glassy, drunk, dangerous. Look who decided to join us, he announced to the room. Doc Brennan, come to show us how tough she is. Kira approached the bar, ordered a beer. The bartender, an older man with navy tattoos covering both arms, slid a bottle across to her and didn't ask for ID. Heard about what you did with your shoulder, the bartender said quietly. That took guts. Just training. Right. He moved away to serve another customer. Bull appeared beside him. He was even bigger up close. A wall of muscle and alcohol. You know what we do with new guys? He wasn't asking. Old tradition. Been around since before you were born. Maybe before your daddy was born. Chief, I'm just here for a drink. Old tradition. Bull repeated louder now. The bar was watching. We test them. See what they're made of. Your daddy, he went through it. Every SEAL goes through it. He leaned closer, whiskey on his breath. You want to be one of us? Prove it. I don't need to prove anything. Yeah, Bull's smile was ugly. That's what they all say until it's time to back it up. Morrison appeared from somewhere. Chief, let's call it a night. Respectfully, Master Chief. Bull never took his eyes off Kira. This is new generation business. Team business. The insult landed. Morrison was old, out of touch, past his prime. Kira saw the way Morrison's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. Just looked at Kira, a warning in his eyes. Here's the tradition, Bull said. Out back, there's an old oak tree. Big branches. We take a length of paracord, tie it around the new guy's wrists, hoist him up. 2 minutes. You hang for 2 minutes, we respect you. Simple. That's hazing, Kira said, against regulations. It's tradition. Different thing. Bull's smile widened. Unless you're scared. The bar was silent, everyone watching, waiting. Kira felt the weight of their expectations. If she refused, she was weak. If she accepted, she was stupid. Either way, she lost. Except there was a third option. She set down her beer, met Bull's eyes, didn't flinch. Go on, she said. Try me. The oak tree was ancient, probably older than the base itself. Its branches spread like arms thick enough to support weight. Someone had thrown a rope over one of the lower branches, paracord, olive drab. The kind that could hold 550 pounds without breaking. 20 men had followed them out of the bar. Some looked uncomfortable, others excited. The crowd that gathered for fights and accidents. Commander Hawk was there too, standing in the shadows watching. He could stop this. One word from him and it would end. He didn't speak. Bull wrapped the paracord around Kira's wrists, behind her back. The knots were tight, professional. He'd done this before. 2 minutes, he said. Timer starts when you're off the ground. Chief, Morrison's voice cut through the crowd. This is too far. She agreed to it, Master Chief. I'm stopping this. No, Kira's voice was steady. I agreed. 2 minutes. Let's do it. Morrison looked at her. She saw something in his expression. Pride, fear, maybe both. Bull pulled the rope. Kira felt herself lift off the ground. Her full weight transferred to her wrists, to her already injured shoulder. The pain was immediate and all-consuming, like being torn apart from the inside. Someone had a phone out. Timing. 30 seconds, they called. Kira focused on breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth, box breathing, 4 counts in, hold for 4, 4 counts out, hold for 4. The technique her father had taught her. The technique SEALs used to control their heart rate under stress. 1 minute, her hands were losing sensation. The rope cut into her wrists. She could feel blood, warm and sticky, running down her forearms. The crowd was a blur. Faces, some laughing, some not. Morrison stood apart from the others. His face was stone. At 30. The pain transcended description. It became everything. The universe reduced to nerve endings firing. Kira's vision narrowed. Tunnel vision. Sign of shock. Her body was shutting down non-essential systems to preserve itself. She thought of her father, the photo on her phone, his smile in the desert sun. 2 minutes. Relief flooded through her. It was over. She'd made it. But Bull didn't lower the rope. You know what? His voice was thick with whiskey. Make it 5 minutes. See what the doc's really made of. Chief, someone in the crowd objected. She wanted to play with the big boys. Morrison moved, pushed through the crowd. Cut her down now. She agreed to. Morrison grabbed the rope, pulled. Kira dropped, and she might have hit the ground hard if Morrison hadn't caught her. His arms were strong, steady. What the hell is going on here? Commander Hawk's voice cut through everything. He stepped into the light, and suddenly everyone was at attention. Drunk or not, you stood straight when the commander appeared. Kira couldn't speak, couldn't move. Morrison was cutting the paracord from her wrists. She watched blood drip onto the grass. Black in the darkness, the color of consequences. Master Chief, get her to medical. Hawk's voice was ice. Chief Thorne, my office. Oh, 600. Bring your lawyer. The world tilted. Kira tried to stand. Couldn't. Morrison lifted her, carried her. She was dimly aware of movement. Lights, the medical bay. Stay with me, kid. Morrison's voice seemed to come from far away. You did good. Just stay with me. Darkness pulled at the edges of her vision. She let it take her. But before she went under completely, she heard Morrison say one more thing. Ghost would be proud. The overhead lights in the Naval Criminal Investigative Service field office were the wrong color. Too white, too clinical. They made everything look like an autopsy photo. Special Agent Rebecca Torres sat across from Kira with a manila folder open between them and an expression that suggested she'd seen this same story play out 100 times before. Let's go over this again, Torres said. Her voice was steady, professional. The kind of neutral tone that police officers and investigators learned to use when they wanted the truth without contaminating it with their own opinions. You're telling me that you voluntarily agreed to be suspended from a tree by paracord for an indefinite period of time. Kira's wrists were bandaged, white gauze wrapped from palm to forearm. Morrison had treated them himself the night before. Deep rope burns, bruising, minor nerve damage that would heal in a few weeks if she was lucky. The shoulder hurt worse. He'd given her Motrin, 800 milligrams, military candy. Yes, ma'am. Torres tapped a pen against her notepad. Miss Brennan, I've watched the video multiple times. You're in clear distress. Senior Chief Thorne changes the agreed-upon time frame from 2 minutes to 5. Master Chief Morrison has to physically intervene. This is textbook hazing. Assault, arguably. The video. Of course there was video. Someone always recorded everything now. Documented their own crimes for posterity and social media. I could have said no at any point, Kira said. Could you really? Torres leaned forward. You're new to the command, junior officer, surrounded by senior enlisted men, all of them drinking. The social pressure alone, Special Agent Torres. Kira kept her voice level. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I'm not filing charges. I participated willingly. Torres sat back, studied Kira with eyes that had probably learned to read people through thousands of interrogations. You know what I think? I think you're protecting them. I think you believe that if you press charges, you'll never be accepted. That the community will label you as someone who can't handle the culture. That's not. Your testimony could result in dishonorable discharges for up to 8 personnel. Senior Chief Thorne faces court-martial. But without your cooperation, my case is weak. The video shows you agreed initially. Defense will argue you could have withdrawn consent. I need you to testify that you felt coerced. The office was small, no windows, just gray walls and fluorescent lights and the smell of burnt coffee. Kira thought about her father, about what he would do in this situation. Ghost Brennan, who'd carried wounded teammates through enemy fire, who'd taken a bullet meant for someone else, who'd understood that the mission was always bigger than personal grievances. No charges, Kira said. Torres closed her folder. Then we're done here. But Miss Brennan, men like Thorne, they don't learn. They don't change. You give them a pass now, they'll just find another target. That's not my problem. It will be when they do it to someone else. The words hit harder than Kira expected, but she stood, collected her things, and left the office without looking back. Morrison was waiting in the hallway. He'd been there the whole time, she realized, standing guard. And Moan. You didn't have to protect them, he said as they walked toward the parking lot. I didn't do it for them. Then why? Kira stopped. The Pacific was visible from here, gray and restless under morning clouds. Because my father would have done the same thing. He taught me that the teams are bigger than any individual, that you don't destroy the community over one bad night. Morrison's expression was unreadable. Ghost also taught you not to let bullies win. I'm not letting them win, Frank. She'd started calling him Frank instead of Master Chief. He hadn't objected. I'm earning their respect the right way, through action, not through legal proceedings. They reached Morrison's truck, an old Ford F-250 diesel with a bumper sticker that said, "These colors don't run," and another that showed a seal trident. He opened the passenger door for her. Your father, Morrison said quietly, he had the same stubborn streak, got him killed in the end. Kira climbed in, said nothing. Some truths were too heavy for words. Commander Hawk's office was on the second floor of Building 164, overlooking the training compound. Through the window, Kira could see new SEAL candidates running the obstacle course. They looked impossibly young, impossibly determined, the same way she probably looked to the senior operators. Hawk was studying a folder when Morrison and Kira entered. He didn't invite them to sit. Miss Brennan, he said without looking up, NCIS tells me you're not pursuing charges. No, sir. That was unexpected. Now he did look up. His gray eyes were calculating. You saved several careers today, Chief Thorne's in particular. That wasn't my intention, sir. Wasn't it? Hawk stood, moved to the window. Let me tell you what I see. I see a junior officer who just earned a tremendous amount of goodwill from people who were ready to hate her. I see someone making a calculated decision to trade short-term justice for long-term acceptance. He turned. That's either very smart or very naive. Kira met his gaze. Permission to speak freely, sir. Granted. I didn't do this for acceptance. I did it because pressing charges would have damaged the teams. And regardless of what certain people think, I care about the teams more than I care about revenge. Hawk studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Dismissed, both of you. They were almost to the door when he spoke again. Miss Brennan, one more thing. How's your shoulder? Fine, sir. Morrison tells me you need another week of recovery before full duty. Kira shot Morrison a look. He shrugged. Restricted duty for 1 week, Hawk continued. Medical bay only. No PT, no field exercises. Use the time to heal, because in 7 days we have a situation that's going to require every qualified operator we have. Cert, Bio. Dismissed. Outside, Kira turned on Morrison. You told him about my shoulder. I'm a medical professional. It's my job. It's fine. It's not fine. You are injured. You need rest. Morrison's voice softened. Kira, I know you want to prove yourself, but you can't do that if you're broken. Your father learned that lesson the hard way. Don't make me watch you learn it the same way. The week passed slowly. Kira spent her days in the medical bay organizing supplies, updating records, and trying not to think about what the team was doing without her. She saw them occasionally, running past the building, loading gear into trucks. Bull avoided her completely. The others nodded when they saw her, but didn't stop to talk. She was alone. Morrison trained her in the evenings, after everyone else had gone home after the sun had set and the base was quiet. They went to the range. He taught her the old school techniques, the ones that didn't rely on technology or lasers or ballistic computers. Your generation, he said one night, watching her estimate range to a target, you trust the equipment more than yourselves. The equipment is more accurate. Until it's not. Until the battery dies. Until the scope gets damaged. Until you're lying in a hide site and the only thing between success and failure is what's in your head. He handed her a spotting scope. Tell me the range to that berm. Kira studied the target, used the mil-dot reticle. Math she'd memorized from her father's notebook. The target was 2 feet tall. At 10-power magnification, it measured 3.2 mils. 625 yards, she said. Morrison checked with a laser rangefinder. 628. Close enough. He pocketed the laser. Now tell me the wind. She watched the vegetation, the way the grass moved, the angle of the mirage rising from the hot earth. 12 miles per hour, maybe 13, from 8 o'clock. Good. Now make the shot. Kira settled behind her rifle. Ghost's M40A3. Morrison had rebuilt it for her, replaced worn components, rebedded the action. It shot like a dream. She calculated the holdover. At 600 yards with a 10-mile-per-hour wind, she needed approximately 2 minutes of angle windage. She dialed it in, controlled her breathing, squeezed the trigger. The target rang. Center mass. Once high end. Oh, and again, Morrison said. They did this every night for a week. By the end, Kira could estimate range within 5% accuracy, could read wind from a dozen different indicators, could calculate ballistic solutions in her head faster than the computer could process them. Your father, Morrison said on the final night, he used to do this same drill every single day for 2 years. He said the mind was the most important weapon. Everything else was just tools. They were packing gear when Morrison handed her an envelope. What's this? Open it. Inside was a letter, her father's handwriting. The date at the top, March 2007, 16 months before he died. Dear Kira, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Morrison promised to give you this letter when you were ready, when you'd proven yourself. I know you're angry at me. Your mother told me in her last email. You don't understand why I keep deploying, why I choose the teams over family. One day maybe you will, maybe you won't. Either way, I need you to know something. I'm not doing this for glory. I'm not doing this because I love war. I'm doing this because I believe someone has to stand between the wolves and the sheep, and I'd rather it be me than someone else's father. I've left you my rifle, my notebooks, everything I learned in 20 years, not because I want you to follow in my footsteps, but because I know you. You're stubborn, you're determined, you're exactly like me. And if you're going to do this, you're going to do it right. Remember what I taught you. The rifle doesn't make you deadly. Your mind does. Trust your training. Trust yourself. Most importantly, come home safe. Because even though I won't be there to see it, I want you to have the life I couldn't have. I want you to be happy. I love you, baby girl. Dad. Kira's hands were shaking. She folded the letter carefully, put it back in the envelope. He knew, she said. He knew I'd end up here. Ghost knew a lot of things. Morrison started walking toward the parking lot. He also knew you'd need this next part. What next part? Morrison pulled a folder from his truck. Classified, red border. He handed it to her. Tomorrow morning, 0600, commander's briefing, high-value target, time-sensitive, and we're short one sniper because Davis broke his leg during airborne training. Kira opened the folder. Read the first page. Felt her blood go cold. Viktor Volkov, she whispered. You know that name. My father's mission. Afghanistan. 1986. She looked up at Morrison. This is the man Dad shot. Morrison's expression was grim. The man your father thought he killed. Turns out the shot hit, but Volkov survived. Spent 38 years planning revenge. He tapped the folder. Intelligence says he knows about you, that he's been tracking Ghost's family. This isn't about cartels or drug trafficking, Kira. This is about you. The briefing room was full. Hawk at the front, Bull and his team seated in rows. Declan Hayes, the intel officer, standing beside a projection screen. And Morrison and Kira in the back late arrivals. Hawk saw them enter, nodded toward empty seats. The screen showed a satellite photo. A compound in Mexico, 20 buildings, walls, guard towers. Viktor Volkov, Declan began. His voice carried the precise diction of someone who'd gone to one of the good schools. Annapolis, probably. Or maybe West Point before transferring. Former Soviet Spetsnaz, current military advisor to the Sinaloa cartel. Intelligence suggests he's planning a major attack on U.S. soil, specifically Naval Base San Diego. Murmurs in the room. Timeline is tight, 72 hours. After that, our window closes. Declan clicked to the next slide. Target is fortified, 40-plus cartel soldiers, military training, good weapons. This isn't your typical raid. Bull raised his hand. What's the objective? Capture or kill, plus we have a secondary objective. Another slide. A photo of a woman, mid-40s, tired eyes. Dr. Ren Ashford, humanitarian physician, kidnapped 6 weeks ago from a clinic in Tijuana. Intelligence says she's being held at the compound. Kira's breath caught. She knew that face. Dr. Ashford had been her mentor in medical school, had written her recommendation letters, had taught her surgical technique in field medicine, and how to stay calm when everything was falling apart. We believe Volkov is using her as bait, Declan continued. He knows about the connection to... He paused, glanced at Kira. He knows she has ties to U.S. military personnel. Hawk stood. Assault Element 6 operators. Chief Thorne leads. Hayes coordinates from TOC. Standard loadout. Overwatch element. He paused. That's where we have a problem. Our primary sniper broke his leg yesterday. Our backup is on deployment in the Pacific. We need someone qualified. The room was silent. Morrison spoke from the back. Commander, I'd like to recommend Miss Brennan for the position. The silence became absolute. Bull turned in his seat, stared. Master Chief, Hawk said carefully, Miss Brennan is not sniper qualified. She's passed every practical test I've given her. Range work, unknown distance, stress shoots. She's as qualified as anyone in this room. She's a medical officer, not an operator. She's both, and right now we need both. Morrison's voice was steady. Her father trained her. I verified her skills. She's ready. Hawk studied Morrison, then Kira. Miss Brennan, do you believe you're qualified for this mission? Every eye in the room turned toward her. She thought about the letter from her father, about the weeks of training, about the moment on the tree when she'd proven she wouldn't break. Yes, sir. Chief Thorne, your opinion. Bull's jaw worked. He looked at Kira with an expression that might have been respect or might have been resignation. She can shoot, sir. I'll give her that. But this isn't a range. This is real world. I'm aware. Hawk turned back to Kira. Here's my compromise. Tomorrow morning, 0600, San Clemente Island Range. You'll run our standard sniper qualification. If you pass, you're on the team. If you fail, you stay here. Understood? Yes, sir. Dismissed. Everyone except Morrison and Brennan. The room emptied. Bull was the last to leave. He paused at the door, looked back at Kira, and nodded once. The gesture was small, almost imperceptible, but it meant something. When they were alone, Hawk moved to the window. Morrison, you're staking your reputation on this. I know. If she fails, it reflects on you, on your judgment. She won't fail. Hawk turned to Kira. And you. If something goes wrong out there, if you freeze or miss or break, people die, can you handle that weight? Kira thought about her father, about the 87 confirmed kills, about the weight he must have carried every single day, the weight that had probably contributed to his death because he'd volunteered for one more mission, tried to save one more team, pushed himself one step too far. Yes, sir, she said. I can handle it. San Clemente Island sat 60 miles offshore, a barren rock used by the Navy for training exercises. The rifle range was on the north end overlooking the Pacific. At 0600, the wind was already gusting. 15 miles per hour, variable direction, terrible conditions for precision shooting, perfect conditions for a test. Morrison drove them out in a Humvee. Neither spoke during the ride. Kira spent the time reviewing her father's notes. Page 47, the Afghanistan mission. Ghost detailed observations about shooting in mountain winds, about compensating for extreme angles, about trusting the fundamentals when everything else was chaos. The range was empty except for Hawk and Bull. They'd set up targets at various distances, 600 yards, 800, 1,000, and one target at the far end of the range that Kira couldn't quite make out. Standard qualification, Hawk said. 3 stages, known distance, unknown distance, stress shoot. Minimum score is 70% on each stage. Miss that mark on any stage, you're done. Questions? No, sir. Master Chief Morrison will spot for you. Chief Thorne will verify targets. Let's begin. Stage 1 was straightforward. 5 shots each at 600, 800, and 1,000 yards. Kira settled behind her rifle and Morrison called corrections. 600 yards, wind 8 miles per hour left to right, temperature 71, Humidity 65%. Kira dialed her scope, aimed, breathed. The rifle bucked against her shoulder, and a second later, the target rang. Center mass, Bull called from the spotting scope. 4 more shots, 4 more hits. Perfect score at 600. 800 yards was harder. The wind was gusting now, shifting between 10 and 15 miles per hour. Kira had to time her shots between gusts, waiting for the moments when the wind dropped on. 5 shots, 4 hits, one just outside the kill zone. Woody percent, Bull said. 1,000 yards. At this distance, the wind became a living thing, unpredictable, malicious. Kira took her time, waited for patterns. Fired between her heartbeats. 5 shots, 4 hits, 1 miss. 80%, Bull confirmed. Stage 2, unknown distance. 10 targets placed randomly between 400 and 1,100 yards. No laser rangefinder. Estimate range, calculate, holds, engage. Kira used every technique Morrison had taught her. Mil-dot ranging, observing the mirage, reading vegetation movement. She took her time, made her calculations, trusted her training. 9 hits out of 10. 90%, Bull said. His voice had changed, less skeptical, more something else. Stage 3 was the stress shoot, and that's when Kira saw the final target, 900 yards. But it wasn't a standard target, it was a hostage scenario. A silhouette head with another silhouette directly behind it. 4-inch separation. She had to hit the front target without hitting the hostage, and she had 45 seconds. Jesus, Morrison breathed. Hawk looked at his watch. Begin. Kira's heart rate spiked. She forced it down through controlled breathing, settled into position, found the target through her scope. The wind was gusting harder now. 18 miles per hour, maybe 20, 30 seconds. She calculated wind hold, adjusted elevation. The front silhouette's head was 8 inches wide. The clearance between it and the hostage was 4 inches. Margin of error, 2 inches in any direction. 20 seconds. Trust your training. Trust yourself. 15 seconds. She waited for the wind to drop. It always dropped. Patterns. Everything had patterns. 10 seconds. There. The grass stopped moving. 3 seconds of calm. Kira exhaled halfway, placed the crosshairs, squeezed. The rifle fired. Through the scope, she watched the bullet impact. Front target, clean headshot. The hostage silhouette untouched. Her watch showed 42 seconds. Bull lowered his spotting scope slowly, looked at Hawk. Perfect hit, sir. Hawk was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked over to where Kira was still lying prone. Stand up, Miss Brennan. She stood. Her legs were shaking. Adrenaline. That was a qualifying score, Hawk said. Better than qualifying, actually. That last shot, he paused. Your father made that same shot. Afghanistan, 1997. Hostage rescue, nobody thought it was possible. Bull approached, extended his hand. Ma'am, I was wrong about everything. You're qualified. Kira shook his hand. Thank you, Chief. More than that. Bull looked uncomfortable. I misjudged you. Won't happen again. Something in Kira's chest loosened. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of understanding. Let's bring Dr. Ashford home, Bull said. They spent the next 12 hours preparing. Kira drew her gear from the armory, plate carrier, helmet, night vision, radio, medical kit, and ammunition. Lots of ammunition. Federal gold medal match, 175 grain boat tail hollow points. The same rounds her father had used. Morrison helped her prepare her hide sight kit, camouflage netting, thermal blanket, range cards, water, high-energy food, everything she'd need to potentially spend 12 hours in position. Your father, Morrison said as they worked, before every mission he had a ritual. He'd field strip his rifle completely, clean every component, reassemble it, said it helped him focus. Did it work? He never missed when it mattered. Kira field stripped the M40A3, the familiar components, the bolt, the trigger assembly, the barrel that had fired 87 confirmed kills. She cleaned each piece carefully, methodically, while Morrison watched. Your father, Morrison said quietly. He died protecting his team. That's all you need to know for now. Kira nodded. Some stories were too heavy for the night before a mission. The briefing that evening was short. Hawk outlined the mission parameters. Insertion via helicopter at 0200. 2-mile tactical approach. Kira and Morrison would take overwatch position on a ridgeline 1,200 yards from the compound. Bull's assault element would move in at 0615 just before dawn, in and out, 30 minutes on target. Rules of engagement, Hawk said. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a capture or kill authorization. Volkov is priority 1. Dr. Ashford is priority 2. Everything else is secondary. He looked directly at Kira. Overwatch is authorized to engage any target presenting a clear threat to the assault element. No need to request permission. If you see it, shoot it. Understood. Yes, sir. One more thing. Hawk pulled out a folder, more classified material. This came through this afternoon. CIA finally declassified some of Volkov's background. Turns out your father's shot in '86 didn't miss. It hit. But Volkov was wearing body armor, took the round to the chest plate, cracked 3 ribs, punctured his lung. He spent 6 months in a Soviet military hospital. Morrison swore softly. CIA thinks that's when he went rogue. Blamed the Soviet Union for poor equipment. Blamed us for the attack. When the Soviet Union collapsed, he disappeared. Turned up in the Balkans in the '90s. Chechnya in the 2000s. Now Mexico. Hawk closed the folder. Point is, this man has spent 38 years planning revenge against Ghost. And now you're walking into his trap. Sir, Kira said, if this is a trap, why are we springing it? Because Dr. Ashford is a U.S. citizen. Because we have 72 hours before Volkov's window closes and we lose him. And because sometimes the only way out of a trap is straight through. Hawk stood. Get some rest. We roll in 8 hours. Kira couldn't sleep. She lay in her rack in the barracks, staring at the ceiling, thinking about her father, about the weight he'd carried, about the choices that had led him to a valley in Afghanistan where he'd made his last stand. Her phone buzzed. A text from Morrison. Can't sleep either. Meet me at the range. The base was quiet at midnight, just the distant sound of the ocean and the occasional vehicle passing. Morrison was already at the range when she arrived, sitting on a bench, his own rifle across his lap. Used to do this with Ghost, he said when Kira sat down. Night before a mission, couldn't sleep, so we'd come out here and talk. About what? Everything, nothing, whatever was on our minds. Morrison handed her something. A photograph. Old, faded. 2 men in desert camouflage, arms around each other's shoulders, rifles in hand. One of them was clearly Morrison. Younger, less gray. The other was Ghost. Afghanistan, 2003. After we cleared a compound that intelligence said was empty. Turned out to have 15 fighters inside. We cleared it anyway. Morrison smiled at the memory. Your father saved my life that day. I took a round to the vest. Knocked me down. Fighter came around the corner to finish me. Ghost put 2 in his chest before I even saw him. Kira studied her father's face in the photo. He looked happy, alive, the way she barely remembered him. He talked about you constantly, Morrison continued. Every mission, every briefing, he'd find a way to mention his daughter. How smart you were, how stubborn, how you were going to do great things. He took the photo back. He knew he might not make it home, we all knew, but he went anyway because someone had to. I was so angry at him, Kira said quietly. When Mom told me he died, I didn't cry. I just felt relieved that I didn't have to worry anymore, that I didn't have to watch her worry. She swallowed hard. What kind of daughter feels relieved when her father dies? The kind who loved him too much to watch him suffer. The kind who'd been saying goodbye in pieces for years because he kept deploying. Morrison's voice was gentle. Kira, your father knew you were angry. Your mother told him in emails. And you know what he said? He said, good, let her be angry. Anger means she's strong enough to survive without me. They sat in silence for a while. The stars overhead were brilliant this far from the city. The same stars Ghost had seen in Afghanistan. The same stars humans had navigated by for millennia. Tomorrow, Kira said, if something goes wrong, nothing's going wrong. But if it does, if Volkov is as good as the intelligence says, if this really is a trap, she looked at Morrison, promise me something. Anything. Don't die trying to save me. If it comes down to a choice, you get out. You've earned your retirement. You've earned a peace. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, your father asked me the same thing. 2008, before his last deployment. He said, Frank, if something happens, don't come after me. Get the team out. That's the mission. He met Kira's eyes. I promised him I would, and then I broke that promise. I tried to go back for him, tried to call in support, tried everything. But by the time we got authorization, it was too late. Frank, so I can't promise you that. I won't promise you that because I failed your father once, and I'll be damned if I fail you too. He stood. Get some rest. Tomorrow we're going to bring Dr. Ashford home. We're going to complete the mission, and we're both going to survive. That's not a hope. That's an order. Kira watched him walk away into the darkness. Then she pulled out her phone, opened the photo of her father, whispered to the screen, I'm scared, Dad. What if I'm not ready? What if I freeze? What if I let everyone down? The photo didn't answer, but in her mind she heard his voice, the memory of 1,000 training sessions in Montana hills. Fear is information, baby girl. Use it. Let it sharpen your focus, but never let it control you. She put the phone away, went back to the barracks. This time she slept. The helicopter's rotors beat the air like a mechanical heartbeat. Kira sat in the cargo bay surrounded by Bull's assault team. 6 men who'd spent the past week barely acknowledging her existence. Now they were checking her gear, making sure her radio worked, treating her like one of them. Bull leaned over, shouted above the noise, Doc, you good? She gave him a thumbs up. Remember, we're counting on you up there. You're our guardian angel. You see something we don't, you call it. You see a threat, you drop it. Don't hesitate. Morrison was beside her, his own gear strapped tight. At 66, he shouldn't be doing this. Should be at home, retired, teaching grandchildren to fish, or whatever it was that old warriors did when they finally stopped fighting. But he was here for her, for Ghost, for the promise he'd made. The crew chief held up 5 fingers. 5 minutes. Kira closed her eyes, ran through the mental checklist, range cards memorized, wind patterns studied, equipment verified. She thought about her father's letter. Trust your training, trust yourself. She was ready. The helicopter descended and the crew chief dropped the rope. Bull went first, fast roping into the darkness. Then his team. Then Morrison, slower but still efficient. Finally, Kira, the rough hemp burning her gloves as she controlled her descent. Her boots hit Mexican soil at 02:15. The helicopter was already climbing, disappearing into the night. And suddenly it was quiet. Just the sound of wind and her own breathing and the weight of her gear. Morrison touched her shoulder, pointed northeast. They moved. The 2-mile tactical approach took 90 minutes. They moved slowly, carefully, using night vision to navigate the terrain. Rocky, steep in places, the kind of ground that would break an ankle if you weren't careful. The kind of ground that had probably broken ankles regardless. They reached the ridgeline at 03:45. Morrison marked their position with GPS, then they began constructing the hide site. Thermal blanket first to mask their heat signature. Camouflage netting next woven with local vegetation. Range cards prepared marking every structure in the compound below. Through her scope, Kira could see it. The compound was lit by floodlights. Guards patrolled in pairs. She counted 12 visible sentries, 3 guard towers, 1 main building, multiple outbuildings. And somewhere down there, Dr. Ashford was waiting for rescue she probably didn't believe would come. Overwatch set, Morrison whispered into his radio. I have eyes on target. Hawk's voice came back distant and crackling. Roger, Overwatch. Assault element is standing by. H hour is 06:15, 2 hours 30 minutes. Kira settled in, adjusted her scope, found the guard towers and marked them mentally. Tower 1 northeast corner, 2 guards. Tower 2 southeast 1 guard. Tower 3 southwest 2 guards. The night stretched ahead, long, cold, full of waiting. Morrison nudged her at 0600, 15 minutes. Kira blinked away exhaustion, focused. The sky was beginning to lighten in the east. Dawn came fast in the desert. Assault element moving, Bull's voice on the radio. Through her scope, Kira tracked their progress. 6 shadows crossing open ground. Professional, quiet. They reached the outer wall, began climbing. Overwatch, Bull whispered. Guard on Tower 2, he's scanning east. Kira was already on target. 782 yards. The guard was looking the wrong direction. She calculated wind adjusted her hold. Her finger found the trigger. Cleared hot, Morrison said. She fired. Through the scope, she saw the guard's head snap back. He dropped without a sound. Target down, Morrison confirmed. Nice shot. But then everything went wrong. Lights flooded the compound. Spotlights, dozens of them. The assault element was exposed, caught in the open. And then a voice boomed across the desert. English, heavily accented, broadcast through loudspeakers. Welcome, Brennan's daughter. I've been waiting 38 years for this. Morrison swore. It's an ambush. Doors opened in buildings Kira thought were empty. Men poured out. Not 12 sentries, 40, maybe more. All armed, all moving toward Bull's team. Overwatch, Bull's voice was urgent. We're compromised, taking fire. Kira's scope swept across the compound. Target-rich environment and too many threats to process. She fired, reloaded, fired again. Men dropped, but more kept coming. Ground team, fall back. Hawk's voice on the radio. Fall back to secondary extraction point. But they couldn't. The way behind them was blocked. They were pinned in the courtyard, surrounded on three sides. Morrison was calling targets, feeding her information, but there were too many. Kira's hands moved on autopilot. Acquire target. Fire. Acquire target. Fire. The rhythm of violence. A rocket-propelled grenade streaked across the compound. Exploded near Bull's position. Someone screamed. Man down! Bull shouted. Ramos is hit. And then Kira saw Volkov, standing on the roof of the main building, watching, not fighting, just watching. Their eyes met through the scope. 1,200 yards of distance. He smiled, actually smiled. Then he disappeared inside the building. Frank, Kira said, I'm going in. Negative, you're Overwatch. Ramos is bleeding out. Ashford is still inside. They need a medic. She was already moving, stripping off the thermal blanket, grabbing her medical kit. Cover me. Kira. That's an order, Master Chief. She ran. 800 meters of open ground. That's what separated Kira from the compound. 800 meters of rocky desert terrain that offered exactly zero cover. The kind of distance that tactical manuals said you never crossed alone. The kind of distance that got people killed. She ran anyway. Behind her, Morrison's rifle cracked with metronomic precision. Covering fire. Each shot bought her 3 seconds. 3 seconds to sprint. 3 seconds to close the distance. 3 seconds closer to chaos. Bullets kicked up dust around her boots. The distinctive crack of AK-47s. Different sound than American weapons. Higher pitched. Angrier somehow. She'd studied the ballistics in training. 7.62 by 39 millimeter. Effective range 400 meters. These shooters were at 600 firing wild, hoping to get lucky. Luck was a funny thing in combat. Kira hit the compound wall at a full sprint, pressed her back against sun-warmed concrete. Her lungs burned, heart rate probably 160. She forced it down through controlled breathing. 4 seconds in, hold for 4. 4 seconds out, hold for 4. The same technique she'd used on the tree. The same technique her father had taught her when she was 12 years old and couldn't understand why breathing mattered. Everything mattered in war. Overwatch to ground, Morrison's voice crackled in her earpiece. You are one crazy son of a bitch, Brennan. Learn from the best, Frank. She moved along the wall, found a breach point where Bull's team had blown the gate. The courtyard beyond was a kill zone. Bodies on the ground. Some moving, some not. She identified Bull by his size. He was crouched behind a shot-up pickup truck returning fire. Petty Officer Ramos lay in the open 10 meters away. Not moving. Kira keyed her radio. Bull covering fire on my mark. I'm getting Ramos. Negative, Doc. Too hot. That wasn't a request. 3, 2, 1, mark. Bull and his remaining team members opened up. A wall of suppressive fire that made the cartel soldiers duck for cover. Kira sprinted across the courtyard. She'd covered this in training. How to move under fire. Stay low. Change direction. Never run in a straight line because shooters led their targets and a straight line made their job easy. She reached Ramos, dropped beside him. His eyes were open, staring at nothing. No, not nothing. The sky, the same sky his mother had seen growing up in Texas. The same sky his children would see without him. Femoral artery. She knew before she even checked. The blood pooling beneath him was too dark, too much pumping in rhythmic spurts that matched his heartbeat. She pressed her hand against his inner thigh, found the wound, applied pressure. Ramos, stay with me. Look at me. His eyes focused. Doc, that you? Yeah, it's me. You're hit bad, but I've got you. She pulled a tourniquet from her kit. CAT tourniquet, combat application tourniquet. The device that had saved more lives in Iraq and Afghanistan than any other single piece of equipment. She wrapped it high on his thigh, as high as she could get it, started cranking the windlass. Ramos screamed, I know it hurts, I know. She kept cranking until the arterial bleeding stopped, until his blood stopped painting the desert floor. But you're gonna live, you hear me? You're gonna walk your daughter down the aisle and teach your son to throw a baseball, and you're gonna tell this story at barbecues for the next 50 years. My daughter's 6 months old. Then you've got a lot of barbecues ahead of you. Bull reached them, grabbed Ramos under the arms. I got him, Doc. Get to the building. Find Ashford. Bull. That's an order. We're 30 seconds from QRF. They're gonna light this place up. You need to get Ashford before the missiles start flying. Kira looked at the main building. 2 stories, concrete, small windows. The kind of structure that was designed to withstand attack. The kind of structure that became a tomb if you were inside when it started collapsing. She ran for the door. The interior was dark. Her night vision took a moment to adjust. Long hallway, doors on both sides, the smell of unwashed bodies and fear. She cleared the first room. Empty. Second room. Empty. Third room, a man stepped out. Cartel soldier, young, maybe 20. He was raising his AK when Kira's M4 came up. She fired twice. Center mass, Mozambique drill, except she didn't take the headshot. Didn't need to. He dropped. Her hands were shaking. First time she'd killed someone. First time she'd watched a human being transition from alive to dead because she'd made it happen. The movies never showed this part. The way his eyes stayed open, the way his hand twitched twice and then stopped, the way her training said to keep moving but her humanity said to check him, make sure do something. She kept moving. Stairs descended to a basement. She took them 2 at a time. Another hallway. More doors. She was running out of time. Running out of luck. Running out of everything except forward momentum and the memory of her father's voice saying, when you're scared, move toward the fear. It's the only way through. The last door was locked. Steel. Heavy. The kind that didn't open with a polite knock. Kira stepped back, fired 3 rounds into the lock. The noise in the confined space was deafening. Tinnitus immediately. High-pitched whine that would last for hours. She kicked the door. It held. Kicked again. The frame splintered. Inside, a woman sat chained to a support beam. Emaciated. Bruised. But her eyes were clear. Dr. Wren Ashford looked exactly like her photo except older, harder, like she'd aged a decade in 6 weeks. Kira. Her voice was hoarse. Is that really you? Kira was already working on the chains. Bolt cutters from her kit. The kind designed for exactly this. Yeah, it's me. We're getting you out. This is a trap. Volkov knew you'd come. I know. We're leaving anyway. The chains parted. Kira helped Ashford stand. The older woman's leg was infected. Badly. The smell was unmistakable. Necrotic tissue. Sepsis. She had maybe 24 hours before it killed her. Can you walk? Can I fly? Ashford tried to smile. Failed. Give me something to lean on. They made it halfway up the stairs before Kira heard footsteps above. Multiple people. Moving fast. She pulled Ashford into a side room, put a finger to her lips. Voices in Russian, then English. She's in here somewhere. Find her. The footsteps passed. Kira counted to 10, helped Ashford up. They reached the ground floor. The front entrance was blocked. She could see Bull's team outside, pinned down, taking fire from 3 directions. Back door, Ashford whispered. Kitchen area. They moved through the building. Kitchen was empty except for a dead cartel soldier. Someone had already come through here. The back door was open. Beyond it, more courtyard, more cover, more death waiting to happen. Kira keyed her radio. Overwatch, I have Ashford. Need egress route from south side of main building. Morrison's voice came back immediately. South side is clear for 20 meters. Then you've got two hostiles at your 10 o'clock behind the truck. I can take them, but you need to move fast. Roger, on your shot. 2 seconds. Then Morrison's rifle cracked twice. Kira didn't wait to see the results. She pulled Ashford through the door. They crossed the courtyard at a hobbling run. Ashford's leg was failing. She was leaving blood with every step. They reached Bull's position. He'd consolidated behind a low wall. 4 men left. Ramos was still alive, barely his face gray with shock. QRF is 3 minutes out, Bull said, but we've got a problem. He pointed. On the roof of the main building, a man stood holding something. Kira recognized him from the intelligence photos. Viktor Volkov, 71 years old, moving like he was 50. In his hand, what looked like a radio detonator. He's got a bomb, Bull said. Claims it's in San Diego Harbor. Dead man's switch. His heart stops, the bomb goes off. Kira stared. You're kidding. Do I look like I'm kidding? Volkov's voice boomed across the compound again. Same loudspeaker. Brennan's daughter, I know you're listening. Your father took 38 years from me. Now I take something from him. His legacy, his bloodline, his daughter. Morrison's voice in her ear. Kira, stay down. Don't give him a target. But she was already standing, stepping into the open, meeting Volkov's eyes across 100 meters of dusty Mexican morning. You want me, she shouted. Come get me. Volkov laughed. The sound echoed. Brave, foolish, just like Ghost. He died the same way, defiant, thinking he could win, thinking honor mattered. He held up the detonator. This device is connected to my heartbeat. Biometric sensor. If my pulse stops, a boat in San Diego Harbor explodes. Pier 7, fuel depot. The explosion will level half the base. Thousands dead. He's bluffing, Bull said. Declan Hayes' voice came through on the command channel. Negative. We just got confirmation. NCIS found a boat at Pier 7, packed with explosives. They're evacuating now, but there's not enough time. We need bomb disposal. 40 minutes minimum. Kira's mind raced. Bomb in San Diego. Dead man's switch. Volkov on the roof. The math didn't work. There was no good solution. Either Volkov died and the bomb exploded, or Volkov lived and got away, bomb still armed. Unless. Declan, she said into her radio, can EOD see the bomb remotely? Camera feed. Negative. Signal's jammed. They need line of sight. What's jamming it? Relay tower. Commercial cell tower. But it's outside the base and we don't have time to. Where's the tower? A pause. Then northeast of the base. 20 miles. But Kira, what are you, Morrison, she said. Where's that relay tower from our position? She heard him moving, checking GPS, running calculations. Northeast, bearing 045. Range. A longer pause. Jesus Christ. 1,427 yards. The world stopped. 1,427 yards. The exact distance of her father's shot in Afghanistan. The exact distance recorded in his notebook. The shot that had started this whole chain of events 38 years ago. Frank, she said quietly, that's not a coincidence. No, Pam. His voice was tight. It's not. Can you make that shot? Silence on the radio. Then no. My eyes aren't what they were. Winds gusting 20 miles per hour. Thermal mirage. That's a 1 in a million shot, Kira. Even Ghost. Had detailed notes. Page 47. She was already moving, running back toward their overwatch position. Ashford tried to grab her. Kira, what are you doing? Finishing what my father started. The climb back to the ridgeline took 6 minutes. Her legs burned. Her lungs screamed. She ignored both. Morrison was waiting at the hide site, her father's M40A3 already set up. Ghost's notebook lay open beside it. Page 47. The page was covered in her father's handwriting. Detailed observations. Wind patterns. Temperature effects. Coriolis calculations at extreme range. And at the bottom, in different ink, more recent. Kira, if you're reading this, I'm gone. This shot is yours. Trust the wind. It guides the bullet home. Dad, 2007. He knew, Morrison said. Somehow your father knew this moment would come, that you'd be here, that you'd need this. Kira settled behind the rifle. The scope showed the relay tower, a thin antenna on a concrete base. The target area was maybe 8 inches wide. At 1,400 yards, accounting for wind bullet drop angle compensation, it was effectively impossible. Range confirmed, Morrison said. His voice had shifted, gone calm. This was the Morrison who'd spent 40 years spotting for snipers. 1427, wind 18 miles per hour, gusting to 22, 8 o'clock, temperature 73, humidity dropping. Kira checked her father's notes, looked at the conditions he'd recorded, nearly identical. The universe had a sense of humor. Bullet drop at this range, she said, working through the calculations. 34.8 MOA, wind deflection 9.2 MOA right, Coriolis effect 0.4 MOA, angle compensation -3 degrees, call it -2.1 MOA. Total hold, 36.1 MOM, up 9.0 MOM. Right. Her hands moved on the scope turrets, clicking, each click a quarter MOA, each click representing roughly 4 inches at 1,400 yards. Set. Kira, Morrison said, you don't have to do this. We can find another way. There is no other way. She pressed her cheek against the stock, the same wood her father's face had touched, the same rifle that had taken 87 lives to save hundreds more. And yes, I do have to do this, because he trained me for it, because this is what all those years of practice were for, because sometimes the universe puts you exactly where you need to be, and you either take the shot or you don't. Through the scope, she could see the antenna. It wavered in the heat mirage. The wind made it dance, 1,400 yards, 96 seconds of flight time. A bullet traveling through air that got thinner, denser, warmer, cooler, pushed by wind that changed direction and speed affected by the rotation of the Earth itself. Impossible. Wind's dropping, Morrison said. 3, 2, pattern change. Northwest, 15 miles per hour. Steady. She recalculated, adjusted. 15 miles per hour from northwest changed everything. New deflection, 8.7 MOA. She dialed it in. Steady, Morrison said. Steady. Wind is, dropping. 12 miles per hour. 11, 10. Pattern suggests 8-second calm period coming. Kira's breathing slowed. Her heart rate dropped. 54 beats per minute. The same rate her father had trained himself to achieve. The same rate that made the difference between hitting and missing. She thought about her father, about the letter he had written, about the training sessions in Montana, about the weight he'd carried so she wouldn't have to. Except she did have to carry it. That was the point. That was the legacy. Wind's dropping, Morrison whispered. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, send it. The crosshairs settled. The world condensed to a single point of focus. Her finger found the trigger. She exhaled halfway. The space between heartbeats. For you, Dad. She squeezed. The rifle recoiled. The sound echoed across the desert. Through the scope, she tracked the bullet's arc. Too slow to see, but she could imagine it. Flying, dropping, being pushed by wind, fighting physics every inch of the way. She counted. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. At 4 Mississippi, the antenna rang, metal on metal, the distinct sound of impact. Hit, Morrison shouted. You hit it. Declan's voice erupted on the radio. Signals up, EOD has visual. They were talking to the bomb tech now. Kira didn't move, couldn't move. She'd just made a shot that shouldn't have been possible, had threaded a needle at nearly a mile, had done exactly what her father had trained her to do. 45 seconds, Declan said. They're cutting wires. 30 seconds. 20, 10, feet off. Silence on the radio. Then, bomb neutralized. Repeat, bomb is neutralized. Threat eliminated. The compound erupted in celebration. Through her scope, Kira saw Bull and his team embracing, saw Ramos being loaded onto a stretcher, saw Dr. Ashford sitting against a wall crying. But she stayed focused on Volkov. He stood on the roof, the detonator hanging limp in his hand. His face was unreadable at this distance. Then he raised something else. A pistol. Put it under his chin. Don't, Kira whispered. But it was Morrison who moved. His rifle cracked once. The bullet took Volkov in the shoulder. spun him around. He dropped both the detonator and the pistol, fell to his knees. He doesn't get the easy way out, Morrison said. He faces justice, human justice. Bull's team moved in, secured Volkov. Within minutes, the compound was clear. The mission somehow was complete. Kira lay behind the rifle for another minute, just breathing, just being alive. Then Morrison's hand found her shoulder. Your father, he said, would be so damn proud. The flight back to Coronado was quiet. Ashford slept medicated and stable. Ramos was in serious condition, but would survive. Bull sat beside Kira, said nothing, but his presence was a statement. Acceptance. Respect. The things she'd been fighting for. Morrison dozed in his seat, 66 years old, and he'd just completed a combat mission that would have challenged men half his age. Kira watched him sleep and thought about sacrifice, about the men like him and her father who gave everything so others could have peace. Commander Hawk was waiting when they landed. He watched the team disembark, watched them carry Ramos to the waiting ambulance, watched Ashford being helped by medical personnel. Then he approached Kira. Miss Brennan, a word. They walked to the edge of the tarmac. The sun was setting over the Pacific. The light turned everything gold. Magic hour. The time when California remembered it was paradise. 1,427 yards, Hawk said. Morrison confirmed the shot, said it was identical to your father's shot in '86. Yes, sir. You understand what that means. That's one of the longest confirmed sniper kills in NSL history. Top 10, maybe top 5. Kira said nothing, didn't know what to say. Hawk pulled out a folder. Your sniper school application. I'm approving it with my highest recommendation. You start in 2 weeks. Thank you, sir. But there's something else. He handed her a different document. Classified markings. Operation Legacy. It's a program your father helped design before he died, identifying next-generation operators, training them for challenges we haven't faced yet, challenges that require different thinking. Kira read the first page, felt her blood go cold. Sir, are you saying? I'm saying your father saw what was coming, saw that the future of special operations needed to be more inclusive, not because of politics, because capability doesn't care about gender. He nominated you for this program in 2007. We've been watching your career ever since. The tree incident, the hazing, that was part of your evaluation. Yes, not the hazing itself, that was real. Bull really is that much of an asshole, but the way you responded, the way you didn't break, the way you chose the mission over revenge, that's what we needed to see. Kira felt betrayed, used. You put me through hell as a test. Your father designed the protocol. He called it forging steel, said the best operators aren't born. They're made through pressure, through challenge, through situations that force them to choose what kind of person they want to be. Hawk's voice softened. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But look at what you accomplished. Look at what you proved, not just to us, to yourself. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him to take his program and his mission and his manipulation, but she thought about her father's letter, about the shot she just made, about the lives she'd saved, about Ramos going home to his daughter, about Ashford getting a second chance, about all the things that mattered more than her feelings. What happens now, she asked. Now you go to sniper school. You become the operator your father knew you could be. And then if you choose, you come back here and train the next generation. Hawk extended his hand. Help us build the future your father envisioned. Kira looked at his hand, at the choice it represented. She could walk away, go back to being a regular medical officer. Forget about sniping and special operations and the weight of legacy. Or she could move forward, into the fear, the way her father had taught her. She shook his hand. Bull found her that evening. She was on the beach watching the sun finish its descent. The sky was purple and orange in the particular shade of California blue that existed nowhere else. Doc, he said, paused. Kira, can I sit? She nodded. He sat heavily, pulled something from his pocket. A photograph, old, faded. 2 men in desert camouflage. One was clearly Bull's father. Same build, same jaw. The other was Ghost. Fallujah, 2004. They held a rooftop position for 16 hours, just the two of them, kept an entire company of Marines from being overrun. Bull's voice was thick. My dad died 5 years later. Iraq. Different deployment. But he talked about your father constantly. Said Ghost was the kind of operator who made everyone around him better. Kira took the photo, studied her father's face. I should have seen that in you from the beginning, Bull continued. Should have recognized the skill, the courage, the heart. Instead, I saw a threat. Saw someone different and assumed that meant less than. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Thank you, Chief. There's something else. Bull pulled out a small box, opened it. Inside was a sealed trident pin, gold, worn. This was my father's. He wanted me to give it to someone who embodied what the teams should be, someone who understood sacrifice and honor and putting the mission first. He handed her the box. He never got the chance. So I'm doing it for him. You earned this. Kira's vision blurred. She held the trident carefully like it might break. You're not one of the guys, Bull said. You're not trying to be. You're something else, something new, and that's what we need. He stood, looked down at her. Welcome to the Brotherhood, Kira. Your father would be proud. He walked away, leaving her alone with the Pacific and the sunset and the weight of gold in her hand. 6 months later, Kira stood at attention in her dress uniform. The auditorium was full. Morrison sat in the front row, civilian clothes, gray hair combed neat. Bull was there too, fully recovered. Commander Hawk at the podium. Naval Special Warfare Sniper School, Hawk said, is the most demanding sniper training in the world. 12 weeks, 80% attrition rate. Those who graduate represent the pinnacle of the profession. He called names. One by one, students walked across the stage, received their certificates, earned the title. Lieutenant Kira Brennan. She walked across the stage. The audience stood, all of them. Morrison had tears in his eyes. Bull was clapping so hard his hands had to hurt. Hawk shook her hand, handed her the certificate, then leaned close and whispered, first woman to graduate Naval Sniper School. Your father knew you could do it. That evening, Morrison took her to the range one last time. They didn't shoot, just sat on the bench watching the sunset. What now, he asked. Hawk wants me to stay on, train the next generation, both men and women. And I think that's what Dad would want. Not for me to prove I could do it, but to help others do it too, to open the door he knew was coming. Morrison nodded. He'd like that. He'd like that a lot. They sat in silence for a while. Then Morrison pulled out one last thing, a cassette tape, old, labeled in her father's handwriting for Kira play when you're ready. He gave this to me in 2007, said I'd know when the time was right. Kira took the tape. Morrison had brought an old cassette player. She inserted the tape, pressed play. Her father's voice filled the California evening. Strong, or the way she barely remembered. Hey, baby girl, if you're hearing this, I'm gone. And you're probably angry at me. Your mother tells me you are. That you don't understand why I keep deploying. Why I choose the teams over family. But here's the thing, Kira. I'm not choosing the teams over you. I'm choosing to be the kind of father you can be proud of. The kind of man who stands between the wolves and the sheep. Who does the hard things so others don't have to. I've left you my rifle, my notebooks, everything I learned. Not because I want you to follow my path, but because I know you. You're stubborn, you're brilliant, you're exactly like me. And if you're going to do this, you need to do it right. The rifle doesn't make you deadly. Your mind does. Your heart does. Your willingness to stand up when others sit down. That's what makes an operator. That's what makes a warrior. I won't be there to see what you become, but I know it's going to be extraordinary. I know you're going to change the world, make it better, make it safer, make it the kind of place where little girls can grow up to be anything they want, even snipers. I love you, Kira, more than missions, more than medals, more than anything except the breath in my lungs. Be brave, be kind, be strong. Shoot straight, shoot true. Come home safe. Dad. The tape ended. The sun touched the horizon. Kira sat with tears streaming down her face, Morrison's hand on her shoulder, and her father's voice still echoing in the air. He knew, she whispered. He always knew. Yeah, Morrison said. He did. 3 years later, Kira stood in front of a class of 12 students, 6 men, 6 women, all volunteers, all determined, all scared. Naval Special Warfare Sniper School, she began, is not about the rifle, it's about you, your mind, your discipline, your willingness to take a shot when everything says it's impossible. She held up Ghost's M40A3, the rifle that had saved her life, changed her life, become her life. This rifle belonged to my father, Senior Chief Ronan Brennan, Ghost. He carried it for 5 years, made 87 confirmed kills, never missed when it mattered. The students watched, listened. Some knew the story, some didn't. He left it to me with a note. The rifle doesn't make you deadly. Your mind does. I didn't understand that for a long time. Thought it was about the equipment, the technology, the training. She set the rifle down carefully, but it's not. It's about the moment when you're 1,200 yards from a target, wind is gusting 20 miles per hour, you have one bullet, and everything depends on you making that shot. In that moment, the rifle is just a tool. You are the weapon. She looked at each student individually. Some of you will wash out, most of you probably. This course has an 80% attrition rate for a reason. It's hard. It's supposed to be hard. Because the moment you take the oath, the moment you earn the title, people's lives depend on you being better than perfect. A female student in the front row raised her hand, young, maybe 23, reminded Kira of herself 3 years ago. Ma'am, is it true you made a shot at 1427 yards? Yes. How? Kira smiled. By trusting my training, by listening to my spotter, by doing the math, and by remembering that my father made the exact same shot 38 years earlier. He left me his notes, his calculations, his legacy. She picked up the rifle again, held it up so everyone could see. This isn't just a rifle. It's a promise. A promise that with enough training, enough dedication, enough heart, you can do impossible things. You can make impossible shots. You can change history. She set it down, picked up a folder. Today's training schedule. Now let's get to work. We've got 12 weeks to turn you into snipers. Clock's ticking. The students filed out to the range. Kira watched them go. Thought about her father, about Morrison, about Bull, about everyone who'd helped her become who she was. Her phone buzzed. A text from Morrison. Saw the news. 12 new students. Ghost would be proud. Hell, I'm proud. Give him hell, kid. She smiled. Texted back Roger that. Shooting straight and shooting true. Outside California, sunshine painted everything gold. The students were setting up on the range, ready to learn, ready to become, ready to carry on the legacy that stretched back through generations of warriors who'd chosen the hard path because someone had to. Kira walked out to join them. The weight of Ghost's rifle comfortable in her hands. The weight of her father's legacy lighter now that she was sharing it. The weight of the future, something she didn't carry alone anymore. She looked up at the sky, and the same sky her father had seen, the same stars he'd navigated by, the same infinite possibility. I did it, Dad, she whispered. We did it. And somewhere in the space between memory and hope, she could have sworn she heard his voice one last time. That's my girl. Now go teach them how. She did. On the range, the students were setting up their rifles. One of the young women, the one who'd asked about the 1427-yard shot, was struggling with her scope adjustment. Kira walked over, knelt beside her. Here, she said, guiding the student's hands. Feel that? That's the turret. Each click is a quarter minute. Your father probably taught you something similar. The student looked up, surprised. How did you know? Because someone taught you to ask the right questions. Someone who cared enough to prepare you for this. Kira stood, offering her hand. That's what legacy means. Not what we inherit, what we pass on. The student took her hand, rose, nodded with understanding beyond her years. Kira moved down the line, correcting stances, answering questions, building the next generation. Morrison watched from the instruction tower, his civilian clothes a reminder that some missions end so others can begin. Bull stood beside him, arms crossed, nodding approval. The California sun climbed higher. The sound of rifle fire echoed across the range. And Kira Brennan, daughter of Ghost, first female Niso sniper instructor of warriors, did what her father had trained her to do. She made sure no one faced the impossible alone.